What happens when a struggling waitress helps a stranger, only to realize he's not who he seems? The smell of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air of the small roadside diner. The neon sign outside flickered, casting a dull glow onto the rain-soaked pavement. Inside, tired truck drivers nursed their late-night meals, college students hunched over their books, and a few lost souls sat alone, nursing cups of coffee as if they held all the warmth left in their lives. Lena had been on her feet for 8 hours straight, balancing trays and dodging rude customers, all while forcing a polite smile. She didn't have the luxury of quitting. Rent was due, her sister's tuition had to be paid, and life didn't care if she was exhausted. Then she saw him. In the farthest booth, near the window fogged up from the cold, sat an old man. His clothes were tattered, his hands rough and weathered, his eyes hollow with a quiet sadness. He wasn't just another customer. He looked forgotten. Lena approached with a practiced smile. "Can I get you something, sir?" He hesitated before ordering the cheapest item on the menu, a small bowl of soup. He counted out a handful of crumpled bills and coins, his fingers shaking slightly as he pushed them toward her. She felt a lump form in her throat. Throughout the night, Lena kept an eye on him. He ate slowly, savoring each bite as if he wasn't sure when his next meal would come. When the bill arrived, he stared at it for a long moment, his shoulders tensing. He reached into his pocket again, but this time, the handful of coins didn't seem enough. Lena didn't think twice. She walked up to the cashier and paid for his meal herself. It wasn't much, just a few dollars, but it was enough to make sure he left with a full stomach. When the old man realized what she had done, his cloudy eyes widened. He opened his mouth to speak, but Lena just smiled. "Don't worry about it," she said softly. "Everyone deserves a warm meal." The man stared at her for a long time, something unreadable flickering in his gaze. Then, slowly he nodded. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice rough but filled with something that almost sounded like disbelief. As he left the diner, he glanced back at her one last time, as if memorizing her face. Lena thought it was the end of the story. She had no idea it was just the beginning. The rain had stopped by the time Lena finished her shift. The streets were slick and shining under the glow of street lights as she made her way home, her shoes soaked from stepping in a puddle she hadn't seen. It was just another night. Another exhausting, endless night. She climbed the steps to her tiny apartment, unlocking the door as quietly as possible. Inside, the air smelled of old books and instant noodles. A small lamp flickered on in the corner, casting a dim glow over the cramped living space. On the couch, curled up under a blanket, was her younger sister, Mia. Lena sighed softly, setting her bag down and pulling the blanket higher over Mia's shoulders. She had fallen asleep studying, again. College had been a distant dream for both of them once, but Lena had made sure at least one of them got there. Even if it meant working double shifts. Even if it meant giving up her own future. She tiptoed into the kitchen, opening the fridge. Almost empty. Again, Lena grabbed a leftover sandwich from her shift and sat at the small dining table, exhaustion sinking into her bones. Lena had always been a fighter. Ever since their parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, she had taken on the role of both sister and guardian. She dropped out of college. She picked up every job she could. She did whatever it took to keep a roof over their heads. Some nights, she lay awake wondering what her life would have been like if things had been different. If she had been selfish. If she had chosen herself instead of Mia. But those thoughts never lasted long. Because every time she saw her sister smiling, every time she saw Mia coming home excited about a test she had passed, Lena knew she had made the right choice. Even if it meant she was stuck in a never-ending cycle of struggle. Lena rubbed her temples, trying to push away the migraine creeping in. She checked her bank account on her phone. Just a few dollars left until payday. Not enough for rent. Not enough for groceries. She sighed, staring at the ceiling. How long could she keep this up? She had no idea that, at that very moment, someone else was thinking about her, and that her life was about to take a turn she never saw coming. Lena's shift the next evening started like any other. The same routine, the same exhausted footsteps echoing across the greasy diner floor. But something was different. He was back. The old man from the night before sat at the same booth by the window. This time, he wasn't staring at the menu as if counting every dollar. Instead, he was watching her. Lena hesitated before approaching. "Good evening," she greeted, forcing her usual smile. "Back again." The man studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I enjoyed the meal yesterday." She raised an eyebrow. "Well, I'm glad to hear that. Can I get you anything?" He ordered coffee. Nothing else. Lena frowned but didn't push. She brought him the cup, watching as he took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving her. "Why did you do it?" he asked suddenly. She blinked. "Do what?" "Pay for my meal." Lena shrugged. "It wasn't a big deal." "For you? Maybe," the man murmured. "For me, it was." There was something strange in the way he spoke, as if there was more he wanted to say but wouldn't. Lena smiled awkwardly. "Well, everyone deserves a warm meal." The man nodded, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. Not everyone thinks that way. She didn't know how to respond, so she turned back to her other customers. But every time she glanced toward the booth, she found him still watching. Over the next few days, the old man returned. Every night, same booth, same quiet presence. And every night, he asked Lena something new. "Do you like working here?" She scoffed. "Not exactly my dream job." "Then what is?" Lena hesitated. No one had asked her that in years. "I don't know," she admitted. "I never had the chance to figure it out." Another night, he asked, "Do you have family?" She nodded. "My little sister. It's just us now." And then, one night, the question that truly caught her off guard. "What would you do if you had a second chance?" Lena frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man stirred his coffee, his expression unreadable. "If life gave you another path, one you never thought possible, would you take it?" Lena let out a small laugh. "That's not how life works." "Sometimes," the old man said, "it is." She didn't know it yet, but that conversation would be the first step toward the biggest decision of her life. It was nearing midnight when Lena wiped down the last table, exhaustion settling into her bones. The diner was nearly empty, except for one familiar presence. He had finished his coffee long ago, but still sat there, watching as she moved through her routine. As she passed his table, he spoke. "I want to take you to dinner." Lena froze. She stared at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. He chuckled at her expression. "Not like that," he clarified. "A proper dinner. Somewhere nice. A thank you for your kindness." Lena hesitated. "I don't think Tomorrow night," he interrupted, sliding a folded piece of paper across the table. 7 o'clock. "If you're interested." Then, without another word, he stood up and walked out of the diner, disappearing into the cold night. Lena unfolded the paper. An address. The next evening, Lena stood outside a high-end restaurant, shifting nervously on her feet. She had borrowed a simple black dress from a friend, but even so, she felt completely out of place. The people walking in and out were dressed in elegant suits and expensive gowns. What was she doing here? She almost turned around, almost walked away. But then she saw him. Henry stood near the entrance, waiting, but he wasn't wearing the worn-out clothes from the diner. Tonight, he was dressed in a sharp black suit, his hair neatly combed back. Lena's breath caught. Who was this man? Inside, everything was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers, soft piano music, waiters moving with practiced elegance. Lena sat stiffly across from Henry, glancing around nervously. "I don't belong here," she murmured. Henry smiled. "Why do you think that?" She gestured at the polished silverware, the white tablecloths. "This isn't my world." "Maybe it should be." Lena frowned. "What does that mean?" Henry leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone who deserved more than the world gave them." Lena swallowed. "Why are you doing this?" Henry smiled, but there was something secretive in his eyes. "Because I think you're about to change your life, Lena. And I want to see what happens when you do." She didn't know it yet, but this dinner was the beginning of something far bigger than she ever imagined. Lena woke up the next morning still replaying the dinner in her mind. Everything about it felt surreal. The luxurious restaurant, the way Henry carried himself, the cryptic things he had said. But the strangest part? Before they parted ways, he had handed her a business card. A name she had heard before. One of the biggest investment firms in the country. And beneath it, a handwritten note. "Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Lena had almost laughed when she read it. What could she possibly have to do with a company like that? And yet, here she was, standing outside a sleek glass skyscraper, heart pounding. When Lena stepped inside, she felt completely out of place. The lobby was grand, filled with men and women in sharp suits, moving with confidence. She caught her reflection in the glass doors, her best blouse, the only blazer she owned, and a pair of flats she had worn down from years of use. She shouldn't be here. But then Henry's assistant, a sharp-looking woman named Evelyn, approached her. "Right on time," Evelyn said with a small smile. "Follow me." Lena swallowed hard and obeyed. Instead of leading her to an office, Evelyn took her to a boardroom. Inside, 5 people sat at a long table. Some looked curious. Others looked skeptical. Henry was at the head of the table. "Lena," he greeted warmly. "Take a seat." She hesitated, then lowered herself into a chair. "What is this?" Henry smiled. "A test." Lena frowned. "A test for what?" Henry steepled his fingers. "To see if you belong here." The room fell silent. Lena's stomach twisted. "Henry, I don't understand any of this. I'm a waitress. I have no business being here." Henry studied her carefully. "Maybe that's what you've been told to believe. But let's find out if it's true." A man at the table, tall, cold, intimidating, slid a document toward her. "Read this. Then tell us what you would do." Lena hesitated before picking it up. It was some kind of business report, full of numbers, projections, and terms she didn't recognize. Her palms grew sweaty. They were expecting her to fail, but something inside her refused to give them that satisfaction. She took a deep breath and did the only thing she could do. She started reading. For the next hour, Lena answered questions, sometimes guessing, sometimes thinking on her feet. She wasn't sure if she was saying the right things. But Henry watched her the whole time, his expression unreadable. When it was over, the others whispered among themselves. Finally, Henry spoke. "That was better than I expected." Lena exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. Then Henry leaned forward, his gaze sharp. "You passed." Lena's heart skipped a beat. "Passed what?" Henry smiled. "You'll see." She had no idea what she had just gotten herself into, but she was about to find out. Lena walked out of the boardroom, feeling like she had stepped into another reality. The morning had started with her wondering if she had enough money for groceries, and now she was leaving a corporate skyscraper after being tested by a group of high-powered executives. None of it made sense. She needed answers. Henry was waiting for her in his office, standing by the window with his hands clasped behind his back. The city skyline stretched before him, but Lena knew his thoughts were elsewhere. When he turned, there was something different in his eyes, something calculated. "You want to know why you're here," he said. Lena crossed her arms. "You think?" Henry chuckled. "Fair enough. Sit." She hesitated, then obeyed. "I wasn't always Henry Langley," he said, lowering himself into the chair across from her. "Once, a long time ago, I was just Harry Lewis, a broke kid with no future." Lena frowned. "What?" Henry's expression grew distant, as if he were seeing something she couldn't. "I grew up with nothing. No parents. No safety net. Just me, struggling to get by. I worked odd jobs, slept on benches when I had to, and got turned away more times than I can count." Lena swallowed hard. She knew what that felt like. "One night," Henry continued, "I was starving. I went into a small diner, just like the one you work at. I didn't have enough money for a meal, but a waitress, kind, young, probably no older than you, paid for it without a second thought." Lena's breath caught. Henry smiled faintly. "That meal saved my life. More than that, it changed it. Because that night, I promised myself that if I ever got the chance, I'd do the same for someone else." His eyes met hers. "You remind me of her." Lena's world shifts. Lena's throat tightened. "So what? This is your way of paying it forward." "In a way," Henry admitted. "But it's more than that. I don't believe in random acts of kindness. I believe in opportunities. And I think you deserve one." Lena shook her head, overwhelmed. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he countered. "I know you've sacrificed everything for your sister. I know you work yourself to the bone. And I know that, deep down, you want more. You just don't think you deserve it." Lena's fingers tightened into fists. "And what if I don't want to be your project?" Henry's expression didn't change. "Then walk away." Silence stretched between them. Lena wanted to. She wanted to storm out, pretend none of this had happened, go back to the life she understood. But something inside her whispered, "What if he's right?" And for the first time in years, Lena allowed herself to wonder, what if she was meant for something more? Lena barely slept that night. She lay awake in her tiny apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling, her mind racing. Henry's words echoed in her head. "I think you deserve more." It sounded too good to be true. An experience had taught her that things that sounded too good to be true usually were. Doubts began to creep in. The next day, she walked into Langley and Company for what was supposed to be her first real day. Evelyn, Henry's assistant, greeted her with a warm but professional smile and handed her a folder. "These are some of the reports you'll be working on," she explained. Lena flipped through the pages, frowning at the endless rows of numbers and charts. "I don't know what any of this means." Evelyn's smile didn't falter. "You will. Mr. Langley believes in learning by doing." Lena forced a smile, but something felt off. It wasn't just the work. It was the way people looked at her as she passed through the office. Some with curiosity, others with skepticism. And then there were the whispers. She caught pieces of conversations as she walked by. "Why her? She's just a waitress. This isn't fair." Her stomach twisted. An unwanted revelation. During lunch, she found a quiet corner to breathe. But just as she was about to sit down, she heard two employees talking nearby. "She doesn't even know, does she?" one of them whispered. "Nope," the other replied. "He does this every few years. Finds some struggling nobody, gives them a chance, but it's all just a game to him." Lena's blood ran cold. Her hands clenched into fists. Was that what this was? A game? Was she just another one of Henry's experiments? Confronting Henry. That afternoon, she stormed into Henry's office without knocking. He looked up, mildly surprised. "Lena." Her voice shook. "How many others have there been?" Henry's expression darkened slightly. "I see you've been listening to office gossip." "That's not an answer." Henry sighed, leaning back in his chair. "There have been others." Lena felt something crack inside her. "So, I am just another one of your projects." "No," Henry said firmly. "You're different." Lena let out a bitter laugh. "Right. And I'm just supposed to believe that." Henry studied her for a long moment. Then, finally, he said, Walk away if you want. No one is stopping you. Lena's heart pounded. She wanted to leave, but a small voice in the back of her mind whispered, "What if he's telling the truth?" Lena stood frozen in Henry's office, her breath coming in shallow bursts. "Walk away if you want. No one is stopping you." Henry's words echoed in her mind, daring her to leave. But she didn't, because despite everything, the whispers, the doubt, the anger, she needed answers. The real story. Lena's voice was tight. "Why me?" Henry exhaled, as if he had been expecting this moment. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." She didn't move. Henry nodded, as if respecting her choice. "All right. You want the truth? Here it is." He leaned back, his gaze distant. "Decades ago, I was a nobody. Grew up on the streets, slept wherever I could, did whatever it took to survive." He paused. "And then, one night, a waitress bought me a meal. She didn't know me. She didn't ask for anything in return. She just helped." Lena swallowed hard. "I promised myself that if I ever got out, I'd repay that kindness," Henry continued. "Not just to her, but to others like her. People who deserved a chance, but never got one." Lena's chest tightened. "So that's what this is? Some kind of charity?" Henry's eyes sharpened. "No, it's an opportunity. There's a difference. The pattern and the exception." Lena crossed her arms. "And the others? The ones before me?" Henry nodded. "Yes, there have been others. Some took the opportunity and thrived. Some walked away. But none of them," he hesitated. Lena narrowed her eyes. "None of them what?" Henry's jaw tightened. "None of them reminded me so much of her." The room fell silent. Lena didn't know what to say. Finally, Henry sighed. "I don't expect you to trust me, Lena. Trust is earned. But I'm offering you something real." She wanted to believe him. But belief was dangerous. Because if he was lying, she had too much to lose. A choice that could change everything. Henry studied her carefully. "So what's it going to be?" Lena's heart pounded. "Stay and risk being a pawn in someone else's game? Or walk away and possibly throw away the only real chance she'd ever get?" The weight of the decision pressed down on her. And for the first time in years, Lena felt truly afraid. The small business Henry had sent her to was worse off than she expected. A failing bookstore, hidden between two towering office buildings, nearly invisible to the modern world. Dust covered the shelves, the lights flickered, and the owner, an elderly woman named Margaret, looked as exhausted as Lena felt most days. "You're the girl Henry sent?" Margaret asked skeptically. Lena nodded. "I guess so." Margaret sighed. "Well, good luck. You'll need it." Lena rolled up her sleeves. For the next month, she poured everything she had into the bookstore. She cleaned, organized, created a social media page, started small events, poetry nights, book clubs, even a pay-what-you-can day. She made mistakes, a lot of them, but she kept going. And slowly, people started coming in. By the end of the month, the bookstore wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. On the last day, Henry walked in. He looked around, nodding approvingly at the customers browsing the aisles. "Not bad." Lena crossed her arms. "I proved myself." "So what now?" Henry smiled. "Now you choose." He placed 2 envelopes on the counter. One is a job at Langley & Company. A real position, no tests, no tricks. The other is a check large enough to buy this bookstore and run it yourself. Lena's breath caught. "You're letting me decide?" Henry nodded. "You earned it." A future she never imagined. Lena stared at the envelopes. For years, she had only dreamed of surviving. Now, for the first time, she had a chance to choose the life she wanted. She picked up one of the envelopes and met Henry's gaze. "I know what I want." Henry's eyes gleamed with approval. "Then go get it." Lena turned toward her future, one she had built with her own hands. And this time, she wasn't looking back. Lena's fingers hovered over the 2 envelopes, her heart pounding. One held a future of security, an executive position at Langley & Company, a stable career, a salary that could erase all her financial struggles overnight. The other held something even scarier, a chance to own the bookstore, to take a leap into the unknown. She took a deep breath. Then, she picked up the second envelope. Henry's eyes gleamed with approval. "You're sure?" Lena nodded. "I didn't fight this hard just to sit in another office, taking orders. I want to build something of my own." Henry chuckled. "Good choice." A week later, Lena stood in front of the bookstore, her bookstore. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the street. Through the window, she could see customers browsing the shelves, the soft hum of conversation filling the space. Mia stood beside her, eyes wide with disbelief. "I still can't believe this is yours." Lena smiled, gripping the keys tightly. "Neither can I." She had spent years surviving, thinking she would never have a real chance at something better. Now, she wasn't just surviving. She was living. Henry visited one last time before leaving town. He sipped his coffee as he looked around the bustling bookstore, nodding in approval. "You proved me right," he said. Lena smirked. "I thought you didn't make mistakes." "Not often," Henry admitted with a wink. She studied him for a moment. "Why me, Henry?" "Really?" He set down his cup. "Because someone once gave me a chance when no one else would. I was waiting for the right person to pass it on to." Lena felt a lump in her throat. She had spent years believing she was alone in this world, that no one would ever notice her struggle. But someone had, and now she was ready to do the same for others. Henry stood, straightening his coat. "This is where I step back, Lena. The rest? That's all you." Lena nodded. "Thank you." Henry smiled, then turned and walked out the door. She watched him disappear into the busy street, knowing she would never see him again. But she didn't need to, because her future was no longer in someone else's hands. It was in hers.